States of Europe, with tonight's guest Joe Mier from Fairphone, presented, as always, by the fascinating and captivating Greg Shapiro. That's me. Hi, folks. It's me, Greg Shapiro, the American Netherlander, and this is the United States of Europe, using an American view to make the EU a little bit less boring. This week's guest is Joe Mier, spokesman for the European startup Fairphone, the fair trade smartphone. That's basically my terminology. How does that work?
Yeah, not exactly fair trade, but it is.
Yeah.
So the elevator pitch for Fairphone, you could say we have this lofty goal of trying to change the way products are made, trying to kind of create new supply chains, and we do that with a smartphone,
Right.
and trying our best to make it as ethical as possible.
Yeah.
But no such thing as an ethical, a completely fair trade, 100% fair
Okay.
phone yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Now I want to follow up on that. Well, we'll get back to Joe in a moment. Let's check in with the headlines if we can. There we go. Right. Hi. The headlines this week. The EU Parliament is busy interviewing candidates for the new Juncker EU Commission, including the proposed new EU budget chief, Pierre Moscovici. The Frenchman's main qualification is that he comes from a country that has not balanced a budget in about 35 years. Now, this is not necessarily a bad thing. Citing a need for economic growth, France announced it is ready to say goodbye to German-style austerity. For the record, it's still going to be called austerity, but now it'll be more French austerity. So maybe it will follow the rules, maybe not. Maybe it will work, maybe not. Maybe it will go on strike. Go away, I'm smoking. In response to the latest videotaped beheading by Islamic State terrorists, Western governments have threatened to bomb the Islamic State, in some cases, back to the 7th century. According to some people, conveniently, that's exactly where these guys seem to feel the most comfortable. President Obama hailed the support of Arab countries fighting the IS terrorists, countries such as Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, which, by the way, beheaded 19 people in the month of August alone for crimes such as drug use and sorcery. Americans responded, well, they didn't put it on video, so it didn't really happen. Outgoing EU Competitiveness Commissioner Joaquin Almunia has opened an investigation into alleged tax dodging by multinationals such as Apple, who have taken advantage of tax havens like Ireland. If found guilty, Apple may have to pay back taxes to the EU, or at least to offer more free music, perhaps from the Irish band U2. Songs such as Save the World, Cheat on Your Taxes, Heal the Planet, Put All Your Money in a Tax Haven, and Feel the Love of Not Paying Your Taxes. Well, there's good news on the Ebola virus. A potential outbreak in Nigeria was contained thanks to swift government contact trackers who are aggressively identifying and quarantining every possible infection. This is exactly the kind of overwhelming and convincing government response that Nigeria can offer, unless you are a school full of girls who has been kidnapped by a group like Boko Haram. Then the government has no idea where to find them. Basically, the message is, if you want the Nigerian government to care about you, get Ebola. Right. Well, that's a fairly dark note to start on. Really, Shapiro? Yes. We're going to use humor to enlighten many different tricky issues this week. But let's start by going over to our guest, and Joe Mier. Your last name is M-I-E-R.
That's right.
And I don't know, in America, we would say Meyer, I guess.
Yeah, I got that a lot.
The Mier is actually more of a Dutch pronunciation.
Yeah, and it means an ant.
Oh,
I
yeah.
get that. So I get that all the time in the airport or wherever they ask, like, do you know your name means ant? So I am an ant. Yeah. Joe Ant.
Joe Ant.
Google Translate.
Exactly.
Joe Ant.
No, that's good. That's a good way to at least to remember. He's a worker ant. Okay. Yeah. Well, I was just going to get to know you. This is the segment known as the 6 in 60. So 6 questions in 60 seconds. Anything you say is right. Just the quickest thing off the top of your head. Are you ready? 60 seconds. Yes. Here we go. How do you like your coffee?
Black.
Black. And what was your favorite comic book as a kid?
Archie.
Archie, got it. Do you have any brothers and sisters?
2 older sisters.
2 older sisters, yes. Okay. Pets. Do you have any pets now?
Now, no.
And do you any pets
I had to think about that.
When you were growing up, any pets?
A couple rabbits.
Really?
That didn't make it. So we had to keep on getting more rabbits.
They never do. What book are you reading right now?
Steve Jobs' biography. Actually,
really?
Yeah.
Okay. You gotta read up.
It's a good book.
And where's the last place you went on vacation?
To Switzerland.
Switzerland?
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds like it was pretty good.
Just last week. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was really nice.
Cool.
Falls, yeah.
Well, that's the get to know you section, and welcome. So we were talking about the sort of elevator pitch for Fairphone, and in fact, the way that I got to know about Fairphone was a TED talk, TEDx Amsterdam, this past year, and the founder is Bas van Abel.
Yeah, Bas van Abel. Yeah. He founded it. It started as a campaign in 2010.
Okay.
It was a sort of an expansion from Vox Society, who was also in this building, Podcast de Zwijger.
Oh, yeah.
So it started sort of as a campaign or a research project to raise awareness about conflict minerals in Democratic Republic of Congo.
Conflict minerals. Well, actually, to answer that, I have a clip from the speech that I saw last year. Let's check out Bas van Abel from TEDx Amsterdam 2013.
This is a very, very small component in your phone. Anyone here in the audience that want to do a guess at what it is? Very loud. Battery. No, it's not a battery. It's very, very small. It's a chip. Let's say it's a chip. But the chip is actually called an electrolytical capacitor. So obviously there are no geeks in the audience. So this electrolytical capacitor, the capacitor, makes our phone thinner. It makes it possible that we have thin phones, and we love thin phones. But in this capacitor, there's a mineral called coltan. And coltan is being mined, among other places, in eastern Congo. And in eastern Congo, the last 10 to 15 years, millions have died in conflicts related to the mining of this mineral. And I've been to eastern Congo, and I've been to the mines there, and I saw guys digging 60-meter deep holes into the ground, staying there for days without any protection to get this mineral out of the ground for our thin phones. And that's just one of the elements.
Bas van Abel, from the founder of Fairphone at TEDx last year. So indeed, that was an eye-opener for me, and I love the moment when he sort of had everybody in the audience pick up your phone. How many people have a smartphone? It's very thin, isn't it? And how did you get started with joining this sort of idea, this brainchild of Bas van Abel? When did you get on board with Fairphone?
Yeah, I got on board, what was it, a year and a half ago?
Okay.
It was, because it was still an awareness campaign up until 2013, I was doing a research master's, my thesis, with online communities at University of Amsterdam.
Yeah.
So I really was interested in the idea of a community being born online, and this is Fairphone is something kind of universal, something digital, something that we use every day, and we wanted to really gather a movement together, and that was something that we were creating online through social media. So that's why I got started in 2013, and then I stayed on as a community manager and also online communications with writing for the blog and that sort of stuff.
Which ends up being very important, actually, for this sort of unique kind of startup. And, well, my job is to try to figure out, some European overtones, and actually how Fairphone is a great example of, being on the front lines of these sort of esoteric European issues. But, another angle of the speech from the founder, Bas van Abel, was part of the makers movement, I believe. And people who haven't heard of that, I mean, it's the sort of T-shirt that says, if you can't open it, you don't own it. And an iPhone or smartphone, an Android phone, it's a pretty good example, I think. Is the idea that people can take apart a smartphone, or they can sort of assemble pieces?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we want that. That's our end goal, but of course, to get there, it takes a lot of other steps. But that's why the first phone, which I have right here, is
I'm gonna take a look at it.
Yeah, it has a replaceable, removable battery.
Right.
And we also have worked with iFixit, which is a company in California and with an office in Germany, and they have these repair kits for all different types of products, but especially smartphones, and they have sort of a repairability scale, so that we can hopefully at some point make a phone that gets a 10 on this repairability scale.
Got it.
And because we want for people to have ownership of their products, to feel like they can repair it themselves, and get more connected to their products.
I mean, I will say it, I'm not the most technically minded person, and if I get, a nice thin phone, my idea is, more like the concept of leasing, basically. If it breaks, then fine, I will play by the rules, and I'll get a new one or send it back to be repaired or whatever. But it was interesting to me how many people you found sort of coming out of the woodwork saying, yes, we would like to be able to open our phone. We would like to maybe even control some of the software. In fact, we had a number of people who were talking about fair trade, in general. And I thought I would just, I thought I would get ready to go to this week's On Street video because, the idea of fair trade in general, I know that's not particularly applying to Fairphone, but...
well, let's say, it is, I think, for when I talk to people, it is like an entry point to talk about, fair trade principles are also applied to food and to clothing and now to electronics. Right. It's just that in the 80s and in the 70s, those fair trade products related to fruit, bananas and chocolate, it already started 30 or 40 years ago, and now we're only talking about it. Fair electronics. Right. So that's why there's just so much work to be done, and of course the phone is so much more complex than a product that you just give at the grocery store and eat.
That is certainly true. I mean, that's the speech as well from last year that just lets everyone know these many different components are made by many different subcontractors, and But indeed, I just did some basic research with the question of fair trade. How interested are we in Amsterdam, at least? With fair trade products. Do you try to use fair trade products here in Amsterdam?
Yes, if I'm shopping, I look for it. If it's not there, then I have to get something else. But I try.
Fair trade coffee or tea?
Yes, sometimes. Well, coffee for guests, and tea, of course, for me.
Okay. And you said you shop at Marks and Spencer sometimes.
Yes, of course. But I don't think they do.
No, not
have any products like that. And not that I've seen in there.
Okay, so Marks and Spencer's, get on that. Do you use fair trade products?
No.
Not really?
No.
Do you drink Starbucks?
No, I don't.
No, not really. Do you shop at Eco Plaza?
No.
Okay. Do you use fair trade?
I try to.
You try to, I know. Do you drink Starbucks coffee? They try to be fair trade. Do you shop at the, I don't know, Bio, Eco Plaza? Sometimes?
At the beginning of the month, because then I have money.
And then you have the money, yeah. Oh, that's great, actually.
Well, we go to the flower market on Monday, flower market, to buy eggs.
Oh, okay.
Because there's this one man who has a farm who has the eggs.
Oh, okay. So
and vegetables.
We never buy flowers, but eggs.
So to get the farm eggs, fair trade eggs, you have to go to the flower market.
Yes.
Exactly.
Well, then,
Only on Mondays.
only it makes perfect
And
sense.
Amsterdam. Yes? But
That gives us an idea. I love the quote, sure, I go shop at fair trade product place, but only the beginning of the month when I have money.
Yeah.
And the last one was like, oh, sure, if you want to be really fair trade, you can go to the farmer's market and get the product directly, but that's only on every Monday, to get the eggs, you have to go to the flower market. And so, like you're saying, we were just talking about, fair trade edibles, food, that even that is not as far along as it might be. Costs are still, on the high side. Maybe the economy of scale is not yet hitting there. But with the electronics, like the idea of open source shareware, you guys are really kind of groundbreaking. Tell us a little bit about like how Fairphone got started up in terms of like crowdfunding as well.
Yeah, so it was when I got started last 2013, last year.
Yeah.
That it was just this idea from Bas and some other people from Vox Society and other partners.
Yeah.
And I don't think they really imagined it would turn into a real product.
Right.
Most of the people involved were designers or researchers, policy people, and really had no commercial background.
Right.
And so it was really it was really something that we felt had to be done because, like, when we're talking about fair trade, you need consumers to show that there's a market for your product.
Right.
And so this is our approach is to show that there's a demand for it across Europe and hopefully the whole world.
Right.
But we started with Europe this year. So we hope that to show that consumer demand that we can, create more phones and create more awareness throughout the world. So that we started in Europe, and we hope to expand possibly next year.
There's a famous story now, I mean, at least on the website or whatever, about how indeed it was Bas van Abel talking about like, oh, maybe this thing should exist, and all of a sudden there are like 10,000 orders.
Yeah, exactly.
And no, I guess we really have to make this thing now. So has it been, are you still catching up, or are you still playing catch up?
Yeah, well, we had that pre-order campaign in May of 2013, and we wanted to sell at least 5,000 phones. So like for people to pre-order, to put down money, a good amount of money for a smartphone.
Right.
And within that month, we had almost 9,000 people just giving us money.
More than 5,000.
Yeah, without the phone being produced yet.
Right.
And so that's what Bas was talking about, that it was such a kind of mandate and a vote of confidence that we can go forward with the project.
Yeah.
And then since then, we've made a first batch. Now we have a second batch of phones that are that we have in stock.
Who's making them? Is it Foxconn in China? Is it?
It's a factory called Guohong, and you can. So we're not just making a phone and shipping it out. Of course, so much of the project and the company is about telling the story about where your stuff comes from, where your product comes from.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of blogs about videos going to the factory.
Okay.
We have a social assessment done telling about the working conditions there.
Right.
So, but it's Guohong. So I mean, it's not really it doesn't roll off the tongue maybe, but
okay.
If you go to the blog, you can kind of get more information.
The blog. Have you been to the factory in China?
I haven't been able to.
Nor have
I.
For the record.
I can ask my colleagues to.
Sure, but there is the blog. That's why it exists, and you can go there, virtually by checking that out.
Yeah.
Now here we go into the sort of European land. I'm looking at some other tech startups. I'm looking at the sharing economy, Uber, Lyft, for example, and these are startups that become what do they call them? Invasive or disruptive, new economy. And you'll see Uber being banned in France or in Germany. Taxi drivers on strike, breaking down, all the transport or traffic. What's the experience like for a tech startup, for someone who is basically, maybe Fairphone is not trying to say this, but I think this could be a disruptive kind of technology.
Yeah.
Are you running into any kind of regulatory issues, any kind of, European Commission or at least national, any kind of legislation, regulation happening?
None that I can speak
Not
of.
yet? Okay.
I mean, but we're really a small company. We started with 5 people last year, and now we're up to 30, including customer support. Now we have all those phones that we have to service and support.
Okay.
So there's 30 of us, and I think we get the question about, are the big players looking at you? But I think we're just a little dot in this whole
Got it.
industry full of millions of phones.
Okay.
But yeah, it's an intriguing question about what will happen when we get bigger.
Well, part of this show is trying to shine a light on the big changeover that's happening right now with the European Commission, and I think a big name in digital, anything in Europe has been Nelly Kroes, who is a Dutch woman, and she's been this commissioner for digital issues for the past 4 or 5 years. She's departing now. I think she's having one last speech, one last public event, which is coming up this coming week, I believe, which is like Disrupt in London. Any contact or any thoughts on Disrupt?
I think, well, in the office we love Nelly Kroes. She's really she's really powerful or strong. She's really
active and dominant,
clear in her statements.
Yeah.
And so with these startups, with Uber, and she's really adamant about allowing them to enter the discussion. She's not, she doesn't say that, she doesn't give a solution, but she understands that there are these revolutionary technologies that are coming in, and that we need to kind of give them a platform to debate with all the kind of old players for the old and the new to sort of get along and be peaceful.
It's interesting that when you talk about America, and America has this idea of, anything goes, that it's a less government regulation allows for tech startups more, when the question becomes, where's the next Google going to come from, or where's the next Amazon or Facebook or whatever, then people keep pointing to America. I've even heard politicians in Europe saying, why is it not happening in Europe? Maybe it's just because of too much regulation. But it also seems like some of these commissioners are coming in and making sure that there is an even playing field. So, for example, I think the new replacement for Nelly Kroes will be the former Prime Minister of Estonia, from Skype land, the country that brought us Skype. Andras Ansip will be the new. Any opinion on the new one?
I didn't know Skype came from Estonia.
I believe so. Okay. Yeah.
No, but I thought the same thing. Like, we can be critical of the big players in America, but it's like, it would be great if we had some tech startups in Europe coming up.
Yeah.
Because you could think of Skype or Spotify.
Yeah.
But I think Amsterdam is actually getting a really big app community. Amsterdam, really big.
Exactly.
It has 2 big startup incubators, Startup Bootcamp and Rockstart.
Oh, yeah.
And they have, I've been in their office, and they have so many really inspired innovators there. So 3D Hubs is actually one of these startups that started from Rockstart.
3D Hubs meaning 3D printing? And,
So I have a few... one little, or even just this
orange
one.
So these are made with a 3D printer?
Yeah. So 3D Hubs is a partner of Fairphone's, and they're really just a network that gets people together who have 3D printers, and gets them to print their own.
Well, in Amsterdam, there's a 3D printed house.
The Canal House, right?
Yeah. It's sort of in Amsterdam North, isn't it? There's like you can use 3D printers to make the bricks and then build it up. Okay. So that could be a real game changer. I love it how you can still see the lines on here, where it was printed out. What about the components of a phone as well? I mean,
that people think that they're all recyclable. Sometimes we see some of these articles, but it's really just. It's difficult to know all the suppliers and sub-suppliers in your supply chain. So that's where we started first with the assembler. This is the factory Gohong that I talked about.
Okay, yeah.
And then that factory gets other suppliers and other people to provide these components. So it's really like a tier-by-tier approach, step by step. And so soon I hope we would include more recyclable components, but
Right.
it's just a matter of understanding our supply chain first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and you talking about blogging on the Fairphone. How do we find it? It's Fairphone.no?
Fairphone.com.
.com, got it. Okay.
/blog. Check it out.
And check out the blog.
Yeah.
But this is the sort of evolution of this tech startup.
Yeah.
So, well, yeah. If I wanted to find one of these guys, how just go order it online. I can look at how it's made on the website.
Yeah. So it's you can purchase it directly through our website, through the shop, and we're only selling in Europe. For now.
Oh, only okay, got it.
Yeah.
And customer support. That seems like, I mean, you must be very busy with people saying, "Wait a minute."
Yeah.
Is it fairly intuitive and self-explanatory, or?
But it's interesting to see that the people who are really into fair products are people who have never had a smartphone before.
Right.
So we have some statistics on our blog that I think half of them have never had a smartphone.
Right.
And
well, these are the people who would buy a phone
you
on
can imagine,
faith.
yeah,
I'll
exactly.
pay you money for a phone that
and
doesn't
they don't even
exist.
know what all the how to get apps and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's really cute and challenging.
It's so great that this is all happening in in Europe, in Amsterdam specifically. Where are the apps going to come from? Open source from Amsterdam, from Rockstarts, and it's just an exciting time to have a startup in. It's nice that it's happening in Europe after all. So I'm going to wrap things up here. Any last thoughts for a moment? But nope. That.
Well, I never talked about that our direct relationship with the EU government, I think, is with these conflict-free minerals.
Yes.
So there's this big law in America, the Dodd-Frank Act.
Yes.
And you can read, we have tons of blogs about that.
Okay.
And some videos, but our recent video was about a trip to DRC and Rwanda.
Yeah.
And about the conditions there.
Oh my God.
And it's really interesting to see that the EU is kind of coming up with their own Dodd-Frank Act,
Right.
their own proposal to have a mandate for conflict-free minerals.
Wow. Well, if you want to know more, you can go to fairphone.com/blog if you want to read Joe Mier. And thank you for watching. That's all the time we have. You can subscribe to Broadcast Amsterdam on YouTube. You can subscribe to my channel on YouTube as well. And Facebook. Give me your feedback at Greg Shapiro Comedian on Facebook if you like. Great. Thank you, Joe Mier, our guest from Fairphone. And we'll see you next week.